Alright, bringing you a video. Got some sort of work in progress right here. These are, here you'll see why in a moment if you read the title. We're going to be doing some accessory molding. This is some, let's get the box. Some easy mold silicone putty. Just a 2-part putty. Specifically, I got, what is this, ½ pound? I got it for about 26 bucks at Michael's. It's pretty nice. Makes nice sort of squidgy, bouncy, you know, proper silicone. You can put this in the oven. You can use resin. This particularly is a mold I made from this. It's from the brand Crazy Figure. Just a M1 helmet. As you can see back here, just made this out of some UV resin. That's exactly what we're going to be using today. I bought this off of Amazon. It was like, I think 15 bucks. It was on sale, normally like 25 bucks. Some UV resin. I bought a starter kit. Came with its own little UV light. That's what this cord back there is for. I'm going to do my best to do this on camera. But we're not making anything this big today, a mold of anything this big. I'm going to be making a mold of some much smaller accessories. Start off with this old McFarlane Call of Duty statue. I'm going to be, well, I have to snip them off first, but we're going to be making a mold of this canteen and a mold of this K-bar. I would have been able to do a pistol holster, but I lost mine a long time ago. It floated around my collection, like parts bins, for a very long time, but eventually, I mean, it might still be here somewhere, I don't know, but it's gone. Instead, to bought accessories like that helmet. This is, funny enough, this is the pistol from this statue, which, why as a statue was the pistol a separate piece? Pistol and the holster a separate piece? We'll never know. This is from DID. I think DID stands for Dragon Inspired Designs. Anyway, similar to Crazy Figure, they did a set of 1/12 scale Saving Private Ryan figures. I guess Crazy Figure's accessories are a little bit bigger, because I have the DID helmet. Too small for this, so I bought that one. It is right size. But that's where this pistol holster comes from. Just a basic GI style leather 1911 holster. I'm going to mold it with the pistol in there. We're going to see how that works with sort of the open space, because obviously, again, pistol and holster are two separate pieces. There's voids. You can see through it. So we're going to see how that works. Hopefully it'll look fine, and the UV resin won't have a problem with some sort of, I guess, overlap into it. But then past that, I'm not doing World War II accessories necessarily. It's just that's where these have come from as of right now. This is, currently have him set up as old Nick Sant, the Captain Rex before Captain Rex was a thing, and that many people thought was. But on this figure, and if you know anything about military equipment, this is horrible camera placement. I broke my tripod a long time ago. But that, judging by its size, must be, it's an Alice gear system magazine pouch, sort of Vietnam era. It obviously fits with the date of when Star Wars was filmed. So they used those, I guess, on the original costume for the Rebel Commando. And Hasbro has provided me with something I can copy. They are a little thin. I would much prefer them to be a bit thicker, but I mean, it's exactly what I need, so I'm gonna go with that. And then one more thing, need a butt pack. sort of the Alice Gear butt pack, and while it's not exactly what this is, going back to McFarlane, their old Halo Reach line, you have June here. It's not perfect, but since it's going to be on the back of the figure anyway, and it'll look fine, it looks fine, I'm going to try and make a mold of his little backpack right here. I'm going to try and do it still attached to the figure too, because even though one side of it snapped, I'd like to keep it with the figure. So I am going to grab some nitrile gloves. It's always a good idea. I don't know, because it says this silicone putty is good for, you can use it for food, but that is when it, like foodstuffs, but that's when it's cured. It's better just to be safe in terms of, well, health. Usually don't want to mess with anything two-part. Let's see, what should we do first? Let's try the pistol holster first. So, how you use this? Just open them up. Put them like this. And then I'm just going to use finger. You don't want to pick off more than you need, and you want to keep it separate. You want to keep the pieces, the two parts, compounds, separate from one another. So I would just use an individual finger to grab them. Give them a little bit of kneading. Let's see. Well, I picked out more part B. Part A, I don't need much. Oh, come on. There we go. Just roll them up into a ball. Let's see how we did. That's about equal size. So with this putty, once you start mixing it, obviously you combine part A, part B. The reaction is going to start. The instructions say you've got, depending on the temperature of where you're doing it, you have more or less time. The warmer it is, you have less time. The colder it is, you have more time. I'd say I'm right around in the middle. It says you get about 3 minutes worth of work time. And they mean it. Alright. So I've got probably about 2.5 minutes left. I'm going to roll it up. No, I'm not going to roll it up. Wasting time. This is exactly what you don't want to do. Okay. This, I'm going to press it in, and I'm going to try and get it sort of nice and around. I've absolutely wasted a lot of putty with this one. Didn't need near this much. If I was more prepared, I'd pick off what I don't need and mold something else, but a bit late for that. So basically we want to just barely get it covered. Make sure it's not poking through the back. And there we go. That should be good. It's not too terribly sort of pulling away. So we'll just set it here, and then you let it dry for about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna get on molding the rest of this stuff so it's all done at about the same time, and I'll come back when it's time to do some resin. Glove. See you then. Alright, immediately after cutting the filming, I've come down with a hellacious coat of hiccups, but we got them molded. June's sort of backpack, terrible placement before I decided to do the piece off the Rebel, but is the easiest way to get to it. And then obviously there's our pistol. Hopefully that K-bar turns out good. And then we got our canteen. So, oh god, send help. But there's our molds. We'll come back when it's time to actually resin them. Alright, it's been probably more like an hour, but all of our molds are nice and silicone-y. So, some of them are a bit harder to squish. I use more clay, but you see, get everything in frame. I had to zoom out to the 0.5 option. It doesn't really do up close very well, but as you can see, seems to have molded everything pretty well. Especially on this one, well, turns out I didn't have to snip them. They're just on pegs. I just pulled them out. I could just pull it off again, and I'm not going to. I'm a little worried about this one because the sort of neck of the canteen bottle is up in here. It sort of has like a nice overhang worth of clay that could block the UV light. So I'm a little worried about that. I know for a fact this one is going to be fine. The knife, there's a little bit of an overhang back here, but it should be fine. Seems to have done pretty well. Canteen, you can, well, like I said, the quality isn't the greatest, but it's a pretty good cast. The holster especially, you just kind of see still got the US on it. Said we're going to be using UV resin. I don't, what does that say? BSREZN? Is that what that says? The BS resin? I don't know. This stuff is usually for like jewelry making. But, you know, UV resin is UV resin. So, we've got our light. It doesn't have an on-off switch. It just plugs in. It does come with the cable. That's what this is here for. So if I can snake it around. Okay. What should we do first? What's the easiest? I think the easiest is probably going to be Mr. Magazine pouch here. So, take our UV resin and poor lighting, even worse camera angle. I am just going to use the nozzle, fill in the corners. Fill her up. I'd rather there be too much than not enough. I probably should have taken time to make sure that this was level. Like sort of press them in level. But I didn't. But how well you can see the shininess. It's full. Again, hopefully it's nice and level. So let's go ahead. This might be kind of bright, so it's not that bad. And then you just sit there. And with this just being solid, it might take a minute. But always, you probably don't have to, the bottle's opaque, but I like to, because obviously when you squirt it out, there's going to be a little bit left on the tip, so I always put the tap back on, and then, did I say tap? I tried to say top and cap at the same time. Put the cap, put the top, whatever you want to call it, put it back on, set it to the side, keep it away, and just let the UV do its magic. So, probably should have already paused, but we're already here. So while we wait for this, it shouldn't take no more than like 70 seconds. I usually like to let it go a little bit longer, just to be on the safe side. The reason I'm doing basically Vietnam loadout, Vietnam sort of GI loadout, is because, well, I have two figures that require that. This guy, by the helmet, is going, and the M16, that's a pretty big giveaway. He's just going to be sort of a basic Army / Marines, just Vietnam, US infantry grunt. But then this guy, by virtue of the time period that the game takes place in, he uses mostly the same stuff. This guy is going to be sort of a clone, Star Wars clone trooper version of Naked Snake from Snake Eater. That's why I'm using Hunter's head. It's pretty much... I do not like Hunter's Black Series head. I think they made his chin way too pointy, to the point where it kind of doesn't look like it's supposed to be. Call came through. I don't know if that messed anything up, but I don't know. Chin's too thin. Kind of almost doesn't look like Tamura Morrison. Kind of does a little bit at the same time. But that's the plan for him. He's going to be Naked Snake. He's going to be Vietnam grunt. And then, well, you can probably see World War II infantry. Alright. So let's just... the process will be the same for all of them. It should be... feels nice and hard. Actually, let me plug this back in. I like to... once it comes out of the mold... clunk. Yep, it's still a little uncured on the front. So I guess I should have left it in a bit longer, because now I gotta clean out the mold. So this one, I guess, is technically a failure. Looks like we lost a little bit of detail. You can see where it splunked out, and I overfilled it a little bit, but that's easily fixed. Overfilling it is easy to fix. You just get like a sanding stick or a utility knife. So unfortunately, I think this one is going to be a failure. Yep, left a lot of resin in there, so I guess maybe the thicker it is, leave it in there. You can see there's a lot of resin that was still in there that's flaked off. But it should be done now, at least to the touch. Ooh, it's kind of warm. It's very hard to see on camera, especially with this being on. It's pretty hard to see because of how clear it is. But if we catch the light right, you can definitely see all of the detail. I don't think I would actually call this a failure. It left behind a little bit of resin, sure, but seems successful enough. You take this, get you some maybe not like full-on sandpaper, but just something to rough up the flat spots. Hit this with some paint, and you've got yourself a nice little magazine pouch. So go away, I'll hit pause on the camera, and I'll do the K-bar real quick, and then we'll cut back to when it's finished, and then that should give you a good idea of the process of molding. Alright, it's been quite some time. Quite a few mistakes. Judging by this. There's a reason for that. This one, you remember I said it wasn't bad, and it's not, but I still pulled this out prematurely, so it's a waste. Same thing happened with this canteen. I don't even remember why I pulled it out early. I think it looked like something wrong was going on, so I pulled it out early. Well, this is the most successful one. This is the first one. I pulled it out early, and then this was me trying to sort of fix it by not actually doing anything. Again, the camera's on. There's air bubbles that started forming right there because our original mold that I made, let's see right there, after the first attempt, you can see the hole. It just split a hole open, so I ended up having to make another one, a far more substantial mold. And to be honest, that is my fault. The instructions specifically say to have at least 1/8 of an inch between the interior of the mold and the almighty, and that is pretty it's thinner than 1/8 of an inch. It's very thin. The same thing actually happened with the K-bar. I can't get it to show up on camera, but right sort of up in here where the handle is. Well, now I can't even see it myself. I think I do. There's a hole, but I think with that, the holster has to be kind of thick, so it wouldn't really work. I think as thin as the K-bar ends up being, that hole shouldn't be a problem if you cure it fast enough. It doesn't matter. I only really needed one, and it ended up coming out good. We'll look at those in a minute. Actually, I guess we'll look at those now, because it's late. It's almost midnight by the time I finally finished what I was doing. But the butt pack mold works. The mag pouch was fine. And the canteen, once I did it properly, was fine. A couple of these I ended up doing, instead of just filling the mold with the resin just to the top and letting it go, I did thin layers and let it sit under the lamp for a little amount of time, and then I come back, do another layer. Like 3 or 4 layers, and you'd have the whole thing done. That's what I did with this butt pack, and it's pretty hard to see. Let me take it back to a 1 zoom. I think that'll fix the quality. Yeah, fix the quality. So you can see there's some weird air bubbles that formed between the layers, but it's hard, and you know, they didn't poke through anywhere, so it's fine by me. Here is from the second mold. It turned out really good. I did hit this with a sanding stick on the edges to take off some of the flashing that creeped up the sides. This turned out really well. See, the US emblem is still nice and present. The little spot where the button is present. It doesn't feel like it actually protrudes. I think that's just an air bubble stuck or something, because I can't feel it on the front, but I mean, it's there in our hearts and minds. It's there. You can even still see some checkering on the 1911 grip. Very happy with how that piece turned out. I'm only going to show you one. So I think this is the one that I rounded the corners of. We got our nice mag pouch. You can see I did this one in some like 2 layers to get the initial sort of face of it, and then I filled it up. Like a weird sort of air bubble between layers, but it doesn't actually affect it. You know, this one, I think this one I just filled up to the top. I can't remember exactly, but canteen, it'll be fine. But if you can see, I took the canteen out just a little too soon. Like, I thought I had it, and I think I did. I had it perfectly level with the top of it, but because I kind of didn't do the molds right. This should be, you know, flat, as in the back of what you're doing is supposed to be flat. It's not. It's off kilter. And I think that's why it sort of faked me out and gave me an off kilter. Or it was just my fault. I don't know. You can see the weird air bubbles between lines, but they don't actually expose any bubbles. You know what I mean? And then the K-bar. It turned out good. Come here. Yep. Some of it has some texture. I don't know if that's like air bubbles or if it was just the texture of the piece, but so this is, I'm gonna have to basically make I gotta make one more of these. It's upside down. Gotta make one more of these, two more of these, and one more of these. Maybe another one of these, I'm not sure. I don't think... I gave one to the World War II right here. He has a pistol when just a basic infantry wouldn't. So I don't know if I'll give the Vietnam infantry a pistol or not. Maybe. I might end up just making a whole nother set of these. And then we have the failures. But, you know, going back to helmets. And this is just, I guess, a lesson. If this is your first time doing it, really, like mine is, be prepared for some failures. One of them fell on the floor, I don't know where it went. And it's clear, so it's gonna... I don't know, some of them, if you were doing it, like, this was kind of weird. Because I was trying to spin it to keep it evenly coated on the sides, and I put too much in it, and it has this cool swirl pattern. But something like this, if you were putting it, it was a failure for my purposes, but this is a successful cast. If you were putting this on, you know, somebody who didn't already have a helmet, just put some hot glue on the inside to get it properly spaced, and then chuck it on somebody's head. But it was a failure because I was trying to, you know, helmet on helmet. And then same thing here. It's a successful cast, if a little bit thin on the rim, but it pooled at the back, so it pooled at the back, so it didn't sit on them right. Really had to work for but yeah, this was the second one that I ever did. It was perfect, and then this is like the 5th or 6th one. But get it nice, even, thin. You know, it's something that's gonna take practice. Pretty sure I mentioned the prices earlier. I'll mention them again. The putty was $26, and then on Amazon this was I got it for $15. I think you can usually find them for around $20-25. If you have some things to copy like this, if you just need a few of them, give it a try. I mean, as far as it goes, obviously, I'm sure this can work for a 2-part mold, if you really want it to. You know, think like you can make copies of this helmet. You can copy the guns. You can copy whatever you want. It's just, because I don't have any experience with 2 parts, but the single part molds seem to work pretty well. This one was a failure. You might could do something cool, like diorama-ish with these, though. This one, like, big old hole shot in it. There's another one of the smaller DID helmet somewhere. Maybe that was the one that fell, but it looks like a super rusty helmet, like you found it, you know. And I mean, even just sort of purposefully messing them up could yield interesting. It's fun. I'm tired. So, terrible end of the video, but I hope you all enjoyed watching. This was really sort of my first attempt at using this stuff. Prior to this video, I'd only done the helmets, but it turned out pretty good. These are very, very much usable parts. And be sure to tune in for the video where I actually make them. I'm gonna try and shoot a video for all 3 of them, even if it's just sort of like quick cuts back to show progress, because again, I don't have a tripod. I don't know which one I'll do first. I'll probably do Snake here, because, well, I don't know, he's about as involved as any of them will be, but I don't know. That is for tomorrow me to decide, so thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.